Hi, my name is Irina, and I'm a practicing accountant in Chicago, Illinois. Many of us get into debates in the face of today's economy, and no matter how nuts these debates get, somehow these discussions have become a form of science. Maybe you've wondered why all the tax cuts are targeted at wealthy investors. Are they really necessary, especially given the amount of borrowed money, only to be reminded that these tax cuts will stimulate both the investment and the growth in our economy? Don't you get it? The story goes, we can't afford not to cut taxes. Or does that only hold true for certain kind of investors? I engage in useful, open-ended, rant-free dialogue with everyday investors and people about their accounting questions. I've been having entirely too much fun talking about progressive tax, accounting, and the economy. Think of this podcast as a chance to hang out with someone who likes to tackle accounting questions and promises to answer them in an engaging and simple way. So let's get to it. Come on, what do you say? I'm just getting started. Welcome to episode 7 of the Tax Lady podcast. Filing your taxes from gathering your paperwork to adding up the numbers can be an overwhelming task. Fortunately, there are ways to make the process a little bit easier. Before you begin, consider whether you'd benefit from hiring a tax preparer or filing your return using a tax software. I'll discuss a list of things you'll need to know before you make your decision. First, the bad news. Hiring a tax preparer doesn't mean you're totally off the hook for organizing your taxes. To prepare your return, the person you hire will need information and documents that only you can provide. Even so, using a pro will reduce the amount of time you spend doing your taxes and help ensure that your return is accurate. Tax preparers are trained specifically to help you prepare income tax returns. Meanwhile, a CFO has a background in accounting and finance, typically has expertise in a wide range of accounting skills, from performing audits to preparing financial statements for businesses and individuals. Hiring a pro can be particularly helpful if you have a complicated financial situation. You own multiple properties, have a lot of investment activity, run a business, or work as a freelancer, or have a high income and are looking for ways to reduce your tax bill. Accountants typically know the tax system front to back and are required to take continuing professional education courses to stay up to date on the latest tax codes and regulations. Furthermore, they use sophisticated software that reduces the chance for human error to affect the accuracy of your return. If you've hired an accountant and the IRS determines there is a mistake on your tax return, depending on the situation, some of the liability may fall on your accountant. Developing a long-term relationship with an accountant who understands your family's finances can also be an asset in terms of planning for the future. Accountants can assist with financial and estate planning, as well as provide expert advice that can lower your tax liability. Now let's talk about what it costs. For some, the cost of hiring an accountant is a small price to pay for the amount of money you can save in the long run. The average cost of hiring a professional accountant to prepare and submit an itemized Form 1040 and a state tax return is $220 without itemized deductions, according to the National Society of Accountants. Using a tax preparer can be considerably less expensive than hiring a CFO. Remember, these costs vary depending on where you live as well as the complexity of your family's tax situation. If you decide to go with a pro, ask for recommendations from friends and colleagues. All legitimate preparers are required to have a preparer tax identification number or a PTIN from the IRS, which you can verify on the IRS website. If a preparer doesn't ask you for last year's tax returns in order to get an idea of your situation, consider going elsewhere. When you've chosen a tax preparer, ask how he or she wants to receive your information. Many accountants send clients a tax organizer that outlines the information they need to prepare your return. You'll also need to provide documentation of your income, including W-2 and 1099 forms, as well as information on the sale of investments, business or rental incomes, In addition, your tax preparer will need expense-related documents, including those that detail interest you've paid on student or home equity loans, business expenses, and receipts for charitable donations. Finally, make sure you review your tax preparer's work for accuracy before you sign the return. If your financial situation is fairly straightforward, you've got minimal deductions, sources of income, and investments, hiring a tax pro may be overkill. You can save money by filing your own taxes with the help of a tax software system. Once you've gathered all the necessary paperwork, including income documents, expense-related receipts, and paperwork, it shouldn't take more than an hour to input the information and find out how much you owe or the size of your refund. Most tax software programs complete the calculations automatically, saving you from doing the math yourself. They'll also flag potential errors as you can double check that you've put in the right information in the right place. After you submit your return, you'll get an immediate notification of receipt and can check your status at any time. E-filing also means that if you're entitled to a refund, you'll receive it sooner than if you would have sent in a paper return. Here are some reasons to e-file. You may be the kind of person who chooses paper instead of digital, or who feels it's safe to hand deliver your tax returns to the post office. But e-filing has a lot of perks too. It's a lot easier. Tax softwares take into account recent tax law changes and do the math for you. It is designed to catch errors, so if you're missing any key information on your return, the program will alert you before you file. It's convenient. Most tax filing software comes with a mobile app so you can file your return from your smartphone or tablet. After you filed your return, the IRS will notify you when it receives and approves your return and when it has sent you a refund. E-filing also means that you'll get your refund faster. If you e-file with direct deposit, you won't even have to wait to get a check in the mail. Your refund will go straight to your bank account. Most e-filing systems are also affordable. Tax filing software can provide you with the expert guidance of tax preparer without the expense of having one. There is a wide range of software available to suit your particular needs and your budget. And if your adjusted gross income is $73,000 or less, you can use the IRS free file system. Most tax softwares run from approximately $30 to $200, while some websites even offer their software for free. Many of these programs offer chat help, phone services, and life events guidance, should you get bogged down by the details. Nowadays, most come equipped with mobile apps, so you can even file your taxes conveniently from your smartphone. One e-filing can provide a convenient and affordable alternative to hiring a tax pro. There are a few risks associated with doing so to keep in mind. A 2016 audit conducted by the Online Trust Alliance, or the OTA, found that nearly half of tax software packages offered under the IRS Free File program initially failed cybersecurity protocols. To protect yourself, the OTA recommends filing your tax return as early as possible to decrease the risk that someone files a bogus tax return in your name, and staying up to date on your software, which includes installing any necessary updates on your device's operating system. There are a handful of software options for major tax prep companies like TurboTax and H&R Block, and it's free of charge. Visit the IRS website, irs.gov, to see if you qualify. Once your eligibility is confirmed, the IRS will give you a list of available software. If you don't have itemized deductions or dependents to list and rely on a single source of income, you likely don't need to look further than the most basic services available. The free versions of tax prep software offered by companies like TaxAct and TaxSlayer, typically you can only use these if you're filing Form 1040EZ or Form 1040A, which means you'll need to look elsewhere if you have itemized deductions. Even if the software is free, you may need to pay fees to file a state return. Check the fine print to make sure. If your finances are more complex, you itemize, own multiple properties, have a lot of investment activity, or work as a freelancer, you'll want a software package that can help you navigate the complexity. Tax prep companies often offer different versions of their software, basic, deluxe, and premium, that vary both in features and price. Depending on how complex your return is, you can opt for a version specifically targeted to investors or the self-employed. Many of the high-end programs also offer live support in case you have any problems while filing your return. But if you do decide to go with a professional, here's a pro tip. Find a tax preparer who holds professional credentials recognized by the IRS.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Tax Lady podcast are the speaker's own. The material and information presented here is for general purposes only.